Hello, and thank you to Ola Gustafsson for inviting me to have this conversation with artist Jone Kvie. We are in Elastic Gallery in Stockholm, and your show, Observations on Temporality, opens tomorrow. But our talk could also be seen in the context of the Swedish release for your new book that has been published in connection with your large solo exhibition at Stavanger Art Museum. And it's a very nice book, apart from great illustrations of your work, which includes installation shots, because it was made after the opening of the exhibitions. And we may return to that, why installation shots are especially important in your case, I think. It also has a good conversation between you and Milena Högsberg, text by your friend, the artist Jimmy Durham, and also text by me, which focuses on your interest and use of materials. And we said that maybe we could have that as a starting point for this conversation, your interest in different materials. So I know you started out studying to become a cabinet maker, and could you say something about that, and why was that important for you?
Yeah, I think it's been has become more and more apparent to me the importance of that education with how you relate to the material that you're going to use for different kind of furniture, and the knowledge you need for each type of wood and so on, to be able to produce what you want to produce, basically. So I think it's been very important.
Yeah. And what made you change course to become an artist?
No, actually it was I started the cabinet making education because I was working on my application for the art school, and I also had this very practical mind that I would not be able to live as an artist. So I would have this as a kind of fallback plan somehow.
And I can imagine that, as you say, you get a certain knowledge from working hands-on like that. But you also have a very intellectual and theoretical interest, I would say, in materials. And that becomes clear when we talked about some of the works and how they were made and what they consists of. And even the titles refer to some of the kind of qualities of different materials. And even though it's mentioned in the book here, I think a very good example of this is Second Messenger. Could you tell us, this is a work made in Basalt. Could you tell us a little bit about this piece? Second Messenger number 5, I'm thinking of.
Right. Yeah, I started to look at Basalt because I realized they had some kind of quality in their appearance that reminded me of the human body somehow, or abstract sculpture. And as I was going into the material, so to say, I realized that they consist of a lot of calcium and iron and so on. And I was intrigued by the fact that the stone and the human body have this same content, then, basically. And this led me to look more into calcium, what it does in the body, and so on. And then starting to combine the basalt with cultural objects.
Because this piece I'm thinking of has both this basalt elongated piece leaning up against the wall, where it's propping up a cast of a cardboard, and it's cast in aluminum. And To come back to the title, second messenger, what does that refer to?
Well, it refers to calcium as a molecule in the human body that the body uses to transmit messages, so to say, in the central nervous system. So it's a very important molecule. It's also in the skeleton, as we know, but this is sort of the main, the most important part of the.
And I read this process of this kind of transmitting of impulses from the brain through the body that these molecules facilitate. It's something that exists in not only in humans and animals, but in plants and.
Yeah, so it's very intriguing. This closeness that you also mention in your text between the human body and plants and animals, and that we have a sort of inter system of communication that is somewhat similar. That's very intriguing.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good example of your kind of use of materials where the references kind of open up so wide into natural science and all these other things. And if we look at some of the sculptures in this room also, like the glass, they look very kind of liquid here in a sense. And I read somewhere that glass has this kind of in-between stage. What interests you about glass? It's quite new for you to work. It's a couple of years you've been working with glass.
Yeah. It interests me that it has sort of has the similar qualities with the lava, actually.
Oh yeah.
And they're both sort of in the same. They're both melted silicate, and so you could say that the glass is more or less just a refined lava in a way.
And basalt is also lava. I mean, most of the lava is consists of basalt, I understand.
Yeah, that's true. So with the glass, it's also interesting to sort of to both to show the quality that it has, and also to make apparent the fact that it is sort of in this in between. It's so you could say it's eternally liquid. You could say.
Yeah. Oh. And so lava, when it comes up from the bottom of the ocean, it sometimes the basalt can have this kind of shape, I suppose.
Yes, that's true.
So it makes me think of metamorphosis of materials and even this kind of process that your work has kind of dealt with in a way, which I suppose also the title of this show, Observations on Temporality. Temporality suggests some kind of process. How did you pick that title?
It felt like the right title for the bronze pieces, because the bronze pieces here is it's a kind of object that is made as for a temporary purpose, and then it's an improvised, it's an intuitive creation, you could say.
Okay.
And then it's sort of it's left there, it's forgotten in this temporal state. And
because these are sculptures that you made, but you have found they're kind of inspired by or even made out of things you've seen.
Yes. So I find this kind of constellation of different objects or materials in cities or in the landscape, a bit here and there, and then I photograph it and I use it for making my own pieces, you could say.
Yeah. And they have had some kind of function at some point. Not easy always to guess what it was, but
and it's a kind of they have some kind of presence in the world that I like.
Yeah. So you are also drawn by this kind of the shape of them, but the kind of sculptural qualities.
Yeah.
And also maybe the temporality. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose always something happens when you move it into a museum context or a gallery context. With temporality, it's kind of has its own space.
It's also a bit about sort of art biting itself in the tail somehow, that this need we have to make objects to put into the world, but when they're really there is already sort of enough objects really, and it's a useless object, so it sort of refers to a bit to that as well, that
art as a kind of non-functional or what you call it.
Yeah.
And your kind of fascination of the natural world, this is, I would say it's a bit of a shift from some of your motifs that has been meteors and stalactites and the kind of natural phenomena that is loaded with a kind of vastness of space or the universe or enormous distances in time and so on. So these are very everyday objects in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm sure you see some kind of continuity in your relation to making them. What could that be? Or is it a big leap for you to start working on this kind of things you've seen in the streets?
It was a big leap, but I think what comes back to my mind is this obsession or this interest with human time or your own perception of your own time, which was also very much the basis for the sculptures of the nebulas and the meteors. It's also about giving a possibility of the change of perspective on your own self. So that's something that it's a kind of
it often comes up in writing about your work, the kind of sense of the sublime, where you stand in front of something that is quite awe-inspiring, and the sense of your kind of smallness or in front of that. But can you instill some of that feeling into those also? I think maybe it's there.
Well,
or do you make it kind of more graspable?
It's still. I hope that there is some kind of sense of the sublime also in these pieces, but you need maybe some more time to perceive it somehow. Because I guess meteors and things like this also kind of are so impossible to understand. I mean, how they have traveled through the universe for enormous distances, where you kind of make something very tangible and a real object of that. It's also kind of a way of trying to understand, I guess. And as we mentioned, some of your works that have been about meteors and
these natural kind of phenomena that are awe-inspiring, and we mentioned the Sublime. And I found this quote by Walter de Maria, where he says that, "I think natural disasters have been looked upon in the wrong way." And then he goes on to say, "I like natural disasters, and I think they may be the highest form of art possible to experience." And I agree in a way. It is very seductive in some sense, this kind of awe-inspiring. And one of the things that makes them so exciting, I think, is the sense of danger also, and your own mortality. And I wonder if you have some kind of, because your title is Observation of Temporality, is mortality part of that also, how we as viewer relate to something?
Yeah, it's definitely a part of it, and I would say especially in the new bronzes as well, because it's very much about the experience of your own body in relation to the materials and the details that you are watching, and this my idea that this conveys something about, or gives you an experience of your own time in relation to that. So it's very much about this as well.
A fitting title then, Observations, and maybe creating also meditations in the viewer on temporality. So thank you so much, Jone, and
thank you.
Very excited to see the show fully installed tomorrow.
Thank
Thanks.
you.